What's up everyone and welcome back to the channel. Let's dive into our first news. Silva was seen backstage after his tough TKO loss to Diego Lopes, and emotions clearly got the better of him. The fight itself was an intense battle, but the damage Silva took inside the octagon was evident as he made his way to the back. Cameras caught the featherweight prospect holding back tears, showing just how much the defeat meant to him. Fighters put everything on the line when they step into the cage, and Silva's reaction is a raw reminder of the sacrifices these athletes make every time they compete. Not long after the fight, Silva shared a video on his Instagram story, displaying the visible injuries he sustained. His face showed swelling and bruising, proof of the punishment he absorbed during the exchanges. Despite the loss, he still carried himself with respect, acknowledging the toughness and skill that Lopes brought to the matchup. Moments like these resonate with fans because they highlight the human side of the sport, where wins and losses can shape the journey of a fighter's career. For Silva, this defeat will serve as a learning experience, and he will surely look to bounce back stronger in the future. Moving on to another news. Ilia has once again made headlines after responding to Dana White regarding his comments on a potential crossover into boxing. Just last week, Ilia crossed paths with Crawford, and in that moment he made it very clear that if the two ever met inside a boxing ring, he believed he would sleep him. Those words sparked plenty of reaction, but Dana White didn't seem thrilled about the idea. When asked about it, Dana was direct, saying he hoped nothing like that would happen, even though he is now officially promoting boxing events. During a press interaction, a reporter reminded Dana that Ilia, the UFC lightweight champion, had been openly saying he wanted to knock out Crawford in boxing. The question came up whether fans could expect crossover boxing matches like the one between Floyd Mayweather and Conor years ago. Dana's answer was simple and firm. He said he certainly hoped not, signaling that it wasn't something he wanted to see happen anytime soon. Ilia, however, wasn't about to back down after hearing those words. He offered his own response, one that balanced determination with confidence. He explained that boxing Crawford is something he truly wants to do, something that sits high on his list of personal goals. Ilia added that he doesn't believe Dana would deny him the opportunity to pursue such a dream. In his view, Dana has always supported his fighters, and he believes that when the time is right, Dana will support him too. Ilia went further, saying that he has no doubt about Dana's backing when it matters most. While he acknowledged that it may take some convincing, he expressed faith that eventually everything would work out. For him, this isn't just about boxing or chasing headlines. It's about legacy, ambition, and showing that he can cross into another combat sport and still make a statement. His belief in himself is clear, and he isn't afraid to put it out into the world. The back and forth between Ilia and Dana has now given fans plenty to talk about. On one side, the company president making it clear he doesn't want to repeat the crossover spectacle. On the other, a reigning champion determined to chase the biggest challenges and opportunities he can find. Whether this becomes reality or not, the tension between ambition and business will keep people watching closely. Moving on to another news, Conor has officially announced that he is withdrawing from the race to become Ireland's next president. The former MMA star revealed his decision in a heartfelt message posted on social media, explaining that after careful reflection and discussions with his family, he felt stepping back was the right choice at this moment in time. He admitted that it was not an easy decision, but he believed it was the most appropriate one given the circumstances. Conor had declared his intention to run for the presidency back in September of last year, sparking huge debate and capturing headlines across Ireland and beyond. His candidacy required him to secure nominations either from 20 members of the Irish Parliament or from 4 local authorities in order to make it onto the ballot for the October election. He had been scheduled to address both Dublin City Council and Kildare County Council later that Monday in an attempt to gather the necessary support, but his announcement brought those plans to a halt. In his statement, Conor stressed that he had been sincere and genuine in his intentions to contest the election. He expressed gratitude for the encouragement and backing he received from many of his supporters, saying he was truly humbled by the outpouring of belief in his political vision. Yet he also made it clear that he felt constrained by the eligibility rules outlined in Ireland's constitution. He criticized the system, calling it outdated and describing it as a straitjacket that prevented a true democratic presidential election from taking place. According to him, the rules were structured in such a way that only establishment-approved candidates stood a chance of making it onto the ballot, effectively blocking independent voices like his own. Conor insisted that his decision to withdraw was not the end of his political ambitions, but merely the beginning of a longer journey. He emphasized that he was driven by a strong commitment to improve lives, defend rights, and serve the Irish people with integrity and dedication. He vowed to continue representing Ireland's best interests on the global stage, lobbying socially and economically for the nation, and promised that this effort would not fade. He described his path forward as a marathon, not a sprint, reinforcing his belief that real change takes time. While Conor's political push drew attention, it also came in the shadow of legal troubles. Just last year, he lost a civil case against a woman who accused him of sexually assaulting her in a Dublin hotel in 2018. The High Court jury found him civilly liable, ordering him to pay nearly $250,000 in damages to Nikita Hand. In July, his appeal against the ruling was rejected by 3 judges, leaving the decision intact. Despite these setbacks, Conor remains adamant that his political journey has only just begun. He views this moment as a stepping stone, using both his global influence and his determination to one day shape Ireland's future in a way that aligns with his vision for the people. Moving on to another news, Daniel Cormier did not hold back when he called out a referee for failing to do his job at Noche UFC. DC wasn't the only one who noticed either, as the late stoppage during the main card left fans and commentators cringing. Cormier was sitting alongside Dominic Cruz and Brandon Fitzgerald in the commentary booth, enjoying what had been a solid night of fights when things took a sharp turn. The event, which had delivered excitement up until that point, was suddenly overshadowed by a moment that had people shaking their heads in frustration. The controversy unfolded in the clash between Alexander Hernandez and Diego Ferrer. In round 2, Hernandez connected with the same powerful overhand right that had previously knocked out Chase Hooper at UFC 319. Ferrer charged forward and ran straight into the shot, collapsing hard to the canvas inside the Frostbank Center in San Antonio. Though technically still awake, Ferrer was clearly in no position to defend himself. Instead of the referee stepping in immediately, Hernandez continued to unload, raining down punch after punch while the crowd, commentators, and fans at home begged for the fight to be stopped. We counted 14 unanswered punches before the referee finally decided to wave it off. By then, the damage was obvious. Hernandez's final shots bounced Ferrer's head off the canvas with brutal impact, creating an uncomfortable highlight that no fighter wants replayed over and over again. Cormier, who was visibly upset during the action, could be heard in real time yelling at the official to step in, his voice rising with each unanswered strike. When he later watched the replay in slow motion, he didn't sugarcoat his frustration, directly criticizing the official for the late stoppage. Fans online were just as vocal. Social media erupted with criticism, calling the stoppage disturbingly late. One fan joked that the referee looked like he was waiting for Hernandez to sign an autograph before stepping in, while another quipped that DC screaming into the microphone was louder than the ref's whistle at his kid's soccer game. Humor aside, most agreed that Ferrer took unnecessary punishment, and what could have been a clean, decisive finish turned into an ugly and dangerous sequence. Cormier has always been outspoken about fighter safety, and this was another moment where his passion came through. His reaction wasn't about theatrics, it was about the real danger that comes when referees hesitate. In a sport where one punch can change a fighter's career, those extra shots matter. A referee's job is to protect the athletes, and in this case, it was clear to everyone that Ferrer was left unprotected for far too long. In the end, Hernandez got the victory in devastating fashion, but the win carried a heavy asterisk. Ferrer showed his toughness, but toughness can only go so far when the referee fails to act. Instead of walking away from the fight praising both men for their performances, fans and analysts were left discussing the official's failure. As Cormier summed up perfectly, this stoppage was way too late, and on this night it wasn't just the fighters being judged, but the referee as well. Moving on to another news, Tom Aspinall has made it clear that right now, his attention is locked solely on Ciryl Gane. The reigning UFC heavyweight champion knows that all eyes are on him heading into UFC 321, and he understands the magnitude of this challenge. Aspinall, now 32 years old, hasn't had an easy path to the top. He first captured the interim heavyweight title at UFC 293, stepping in after Jon Jones suffered an injury. From there, he defended the belt against Curtis Blades, cementing himself as a true contender for the undisputed crown. Jones had just come off a dominant victory over Stipe Miocic, but despite holding the lineal title, he made it clear he wasn't particularly interested in facing Aspinall. Dana White spent nearly 2 years trying to make the fight happen, but Jones repeatedly brushed it off. Then, out of nowhere, the former champion retired at the age of 38, which officially elevated Aspinall from interim to undisputed heavyweight champion. It was a strange twist in the division's history, but it left Aspinall as the unquestioned king of the weight class. Soon after, his first title defense was booked, setting up a huge showdown with Ciryl Gane at UFC 321. Now Jones has since unretired and re-entered the USADA testing pool, sparking talk of a possible comeback. When asked about it, Aspinall didn't seem interested in that conversation. He explained that for him, Ciryl Gane is the only fight that matters. Cyryl's the guy I'm fighting, so he's the biggest test right now, Aspinall said at the press conference. Jon Jones is retired, so I don't really have much to say on that, to be honest. I'm fighting this guy, and this guy's really good, so I'll be as ready as I can be. Aspinall isn't dismissing Jones completely, but he knows better than to look past the dangerous striker standing in front of him. Ciryl Gane has already competed for the heavyweight title twice, gaining valuable experience in the process. Aspinall acknowledged that both men are far more complete fighters now than they were just a few years ago. I think the biggest difference is we're both better, he said. We're both better now than we were a few years ago. We both have a lot more experience. Cyryl's had 2 title shots already. I've defended an interim title and now hold the undisputed title, so I think this fight's gonna be better. He went on to highlight how unique this matchup really is, stressing that heavyweights of their size don't usually move with such speed and fluidity. I think it's pretty rare that you see any guys of our size that move like we do, Aspinall continued. This is really like the new age of the heavyweights, and people are gonna start to see the difference between guys like us and guys from 10 years ago. For Aspinall, this moment represents more than just a title defense. It's a chance to showcase the evolution of the heavyweight division and to prove that he belongs at the very top against one of the most technical fighters in the sport today. Moving on to another news, Arman, the #1 contender in the UFC lightweight division, is set to make his return to competition, but not inside the octagon. Instead, he will step back into the grappling world as he continues to wait for his next UFC opportunity. Arman has been patient since missing out on a title shot earlier this year, a moment many fans thought would be his time to claim gold. He was originally scheduled to rematch Islam Makhachev for the lightweight belt at UFC 311, but a back injury forced him out. It was a heartbreaking setback, delaying his long-awaited chance to fight for the title. Since then, Arman has kept himself close to the action. He even made weight as the official backup for the UFC 317 main event between Ilia and Charles Oliveira. That fight ended in spectacular fashion, with Ilia scoring a first-round knockout to capture the belt. During his post-fight interview, Ilia mentioned Arman as one of the key names in the division, which only fueled more excitement about a potential matchup down the line. But as the months passed, there was still no clear word about when Arman would finally get his shot at the lightweight crown. Rather than sitting on the sidelines, Arman has decided to stay active through grappling. On Friday, ACBJJ, also known as Absolute Championship of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, announced that Arman will face former UFC and WEC lightweight champion Benson Henderson in a NUG super fight. This high-profile matchup will headline ACBJ 18, scheduled to take place on September 19 in Moscow, Russia. Henderson, now 41 years old, is a legend of the sport, widely regarded as one of the greatest lightweight fighters of all time. His resume includes legendary wins, multiple titles, and years spent competing at the highest levels. In recent times, though, he has stepped into other combat sports, including a misfits boxing bout against Idris Virgo about a year ago, which ended in defeat. Now he enters the grappling world to test himself against one of the most dangerous lightweights of this generation. For Arman, this won't be his first time on the grappling stage. In fact, it will be his 3rd straight grappling match. He already holds back-to-back victories over PFL fighter Makashar Zenikov and former Bellator lightweight champion Patrick Pitbull. Those wins showed that his relentless pressure, explosive scrambles, and powerful wrestling base translate perfectly to grappling competition. Each performance has proven that Arman is not just a threat in MMA but also a dominant force on the mats. This upcoming clash with Henderson is more than just an exhibition. It is a chance for Arman to remain sharp, keep his name alive in the spotlight, and continue building momentum while the UFC sorts out his next move. For the fans, it is another exciting opportunity to watch one of the most talented contenders of this era showcase his ground game against a respected legend. Henderson may be nearing the end of his competitive journey, but his skill, experience, and toughness will make this matchup anything but easy. For Arman, every step he takes outside the octagon keeps the fire burning as he waits for the UFC to finally give him the title shot he has earned. Moving on to another news. Footage has been making the rounds on social media, showing Dana White looking visibly irritated while sitting ringside at the Canelo vs. Crawford event. The clip quickly spread, catching the attention of fans who noticed Dana's expressions throughout the night. He was seated alongside Turki Al-Sheikh, Jason Statham, and Mr. Beast inside Allegiant Stadium, but rather than looking entertained, Dana appeared annoyed, which sparked a wave of online reactions. Fans were quick to point out that Dana has never hidden his frustration with how boxing operates, especially when it comes to the pacing of events. He has repeatedly said over the years that boxing drags out its cards, and the slow schedule makes the viewing experience frustrating compared to the fast-moving nature of UFC events. Watching him at ringside, people immediately connected his past comments with his current demeanor, saying it was obvious he was fed up. The video showed Turki Al-Sheikh smiling and chatting, Jason Statham appearing relaxed, and Mr. Beast simply enjoying the spectacle. Meanwhile, Dana's body language stood out as he looked restless and uninterested. Across platforms like Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, captions and comments piled up. One top reply read, "Dana looks sick of boxing." Another fan added, "I'm with Dana, boxing is boring." Others chimed in with takes like, "He looks miserable," and Dana would have already run 2 UFC events by now. On Instagram, the caption of the post made the moment even clearer, stating, "Dana White already tired of boxing." The comment section lit up, with thousands of fans weighing in. Jorge Masvidal even left a comment himself, writing, "Dead on," which only fueled more engagement from the combat sports community. Many felt Dana's reaction wasn't surprising at all, given his long history of criticizing boxing's drawn-out production style and slow pacing compared to the high-energy format of UFC shows. The clip has since become one of the most talked-about moments from the Canelo vs. Crawford night, not because of the action in the ring but because of how much Dana's presence and expression resonated with fight fans. It showed once again how influential influential his opinions are, even when he doesn't say a word. A simple look of irritation from Dana White was enough to spark a massive conversation online, reminding everyone just how much his voice continues to shape the narrative around combat sports. Moving on to another news, Terence Crawford made strong statements in his post-fight press conference, saying that despite moving up 2 weight classes, he felt his punching power and physical strength were the deciding factors in the bout. Crawford confidently explained that he was the stronger man on fight night and insisted that he punched harder than Canelo. He made it clear that many people had placed too much emphasis on him moving up in weight, doubting whether he could compete at that level, but he proved those doubts wrong. Crawford went on to break down the physical comparisons between himself and Canelo, dismissing the idea that Canelo was this massive, overpowering figure. He explained that Canelo is not actually a big guy, but more of a smaller fighter competing in a larger weight class. Crawford pointed out that the two are practically the same size, with him being slightly taller and having a longer reach. He acknowledged that Canelo has a wider frame, but said overall their dimensions are close. For Crawford, the narrative that Canelo held some kind of huge size advantage was misleading, and even disrespectful to his own abilities. He stressed that people underestimated him, putting too much stock into the thought that moving up would be a major obstacle. But when fight night came, Crawford showed that his skills and power translated perfectly. He reminded the media that when the weigh-in numbers were revealed, many were surprised at how small the actual difference was between the two men. The perception that Canelo was a much bigger fighter didn't match the reality. Crawford took pride in proving that not only could he handle the move up, but he could dominate while doing it. He wanted it known that the strength and punching power were on his side, not Canelo's. By calling himself the harder puncher, Crawford added even more weight to his victory, signaling that the outcome wasn't just about technical skills, but also about raw physical dominance. The confidence in his voice was evident as he spoke, knowing that he had silenced critics and once again backed up his words with his performance inside the ring. For Crawford, this win solidified the idea that he can compete at the highest levels regardless of weight class, and that his power is just as effective, if not more, when matched against some of the biggest names in boxing. That's it from MMA Pulse News. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for daily MMA news.